A winter morning in the Midwest doesn't ask politely, it tests everything you own: steel, diesel, and the man behind the wheel. Some tractors turned cold starts into a gamble, but a few, they just showed up and worked, and the deeper we go, the tougher they get. Massey Ferguson 175. There was a certain kind of quiet confidence to a Massey Ferguson 175, not loud, not flashy, just steady. On a frozen Midwest morning, when the wind cut through the barn boards and everything felt stiff with cold, that Perkins diesel had a way of coming to life that farmers trusted, a low, even rumble, like it knew the job was waiting. Built between 1964 and 1975, the 175 carried around 63 horsepower at the PTO. It wasn't the biggest tractor on the farm, but it didn't need to be. This was the one you reached for when chores had to get done no matter the weather: feeding cattle before sunrise, pulling a loaded wagon across icy ground, or running a baler late into a gray winter afternoon. It handled it all without complaint. Back then, a new 175 would set you back somewhere around $6,000, not a small amount by any means. For many families, that price meant careful planning, maybe a loan at the local bank, and a quiet promise that this machine would earn its keep, and it did. Year after year, it proved that reliability wasn't about size, it was about showing up every single day. The controls were simple, honest, nothing extra, nothing confusing, just a tractor built for a man who needed to work, not fiddle. And when the temperature dropped and other machines hesitated, the 175 often kept going, steady as ever. But as dependable as that Massey was, there were others that carried a little more weight, a little more power, machines that stepped further into the cold without flinching. Case 930. You could spot a Case 930 from a distance, that long, squared hood, the stance of something built to lean into hard ground and never back away. On a Midwest winter day, when the frost sat thick on the fields and the air felt heavy in your lungs, this was the kind of tractor that didn't hesitate, it just dug in. Built through the 1960s, the 930 carried roughly 80 horsepower at the PTO, most often from a big six-cylinder diesel that had a deep, steady pull. It wasn't a high-revving machine, it worked low and strong, the kind of power you felt more than heard. Hook it to a plow or a heavy disc, and it would settle into the soil like it belonged there, even when the ground turned stubborn with cold. Back then, a new 930 typically ran in the range of $7,000 to $8,000 depending on how it was set up. That kind of money didn't come easy. For many farmers, it meant putting faith in a machine that had to handle the hardest jobs on the place, and the 930 answered that call. It was built heavier than most, with a simple, durable design that didn't mind long hours or rough conditions. There was a certain honesty to it, no frills, no nonsense, just steel, weight, and torque, the kind of tractor you trusted when the weather turned against you and quitting wasn't an option. Even decades later, you'll still find them working slow circles in winter fields, exhaust hanging in the cold air like a memory that never quite fades. And yet, for all that strength, some farmers wanted a tractor that could do just a little more, not just pull hard, but handle the everyday workload with a different kind of balance. Ford 5000. The Ford 5000 had a different kind of presence, not as heavy in the nose as the Case, not as quiet as the Massey, but right there in the middle where most farms lived. On a cold Midwest morning, when frost clung to the fenders and the yard cracked under your boots, that blue tractor often fired up with a sharp, confident bark, ready before the sun had fully cleared the horizon. Built from 1965 through 1976, it delivered around 69 horsepower at the PTO, enough to handle a plow, run a baler, or keep a feed grinder turning when the wind cut through your coat. It was the kind of tractor that didn't specialize in just one job. It became part of everything: chores, fieldwork, hauling, day after day, season after season. Back then, a new Ford 5000 would usually land somewhere near $6,500, depending on options. For many families, that price sat right in reach. Not easy, but possible. It was the kind of investment a farmer could justify, knowing it would cover more ground than one machine had any right to. And in the cold months, when reliability mattered more than comfort, that value became clear. There was a practical feel to it, good visibility, straightforward controls, and an engine that didn't mind working through long winter hours. It wasn't trying to impress anyone, it was built to earn its place, and it did. Across barns and fields all over the Midwest, the 5000 became a steady partner. One that rarely let you down when the weather turned hard, still, as dependable as it was. Some tractors carried a little more muscle, and a reputation that stretched even further across generations. International Harvester 966. By the early 1970s, winters hadn't softened, but the expectations had grown. Farms were asking more from a tractor, and the International Harvester 966 answered with a kind of strength that felt ready for anything the season could throw at it. On a bitter morning, when the wind rattled the shed doors and the snow packed tight underfoot, that red machine came alive with a deep, steady tone, confident, unhurried. Built from 1971 to 1976, the 966 carried right around 100 horsepower at the PTO. Most often from a durable six-cylinder diesel that seemed made for long days and longer winters, it had the weight to hold traction on frozen ground, and the power to keep pulling when lighter tractors started to lose their bite, whether it was dragging a feed wagon through snow, turning over heavy soil before a freeze, or running equipment hour after hour. It didn't back down. A new 966 in those days often came in somewhere near $11,000, depending on how it was equipped. That wasn't just a purchase, it was a commitment. For many families, it meant trusting that this tractor would carry the farm forward through uncertain seasons, and more often than not, it did exactly that. It became the kind of machine you built your operation around. The cab options, the improved hydraulics, the way it handled both fieldwork and daily chores. It marked a step into a more modern kind of farming, without losing that rugged dependability the Midwest relied on, even in the coldest months, when starting and staying running meant everything. The 966 proved it belonged. And yet, there was one tractor that farmers spoke about with a different kind of respect, a machine that seemed to get everything just right. John Deere 4020. There are some machines that don't just work a farm, they become part of its story. The John Deere 4020 was one of those. On a cold Midwest morning, when the sky was still pale and the air carried that sharp winter bite, you'd hear it come to life, a smooth, steady diesel note that felt as dependable as the sunrise itself. Built from 1963 to 1972, the 4020 delivered around 95 horsepower at the PTO, but numbers never quite explained it. This tractor had balance, the kind that made hard work feel manageable. It could pull a plow through heavy ground, handle a loader in the yard, or run equipment all day without wearing itself thin. In winter, when starting mattered and stopping wasn't an option, the 4020 earned its reputation one cold morning at a time. Back then, a new one typically cost somewhere around $10,000, depending on how it was equipped. That kind of money carried weight. It might have meant tightening the belt for a few seasons, or placing a quiet bet on the future of the farm. But for many, it paid back more than expected. The 4020 wasn't just reliable, it was forgiving, adaptable, and built in a way that made a man feel like the machine understood the work. The controls were where your hands expected them, the power came on smooth, never rushed, and year after year, through snow, mud, and harvest dust, it kept showing up, asking for little, giving back plenty. It became the tractor others were measured against, not because it was perfect, but because it was right. Even today, when you see one still working under a winter sky, there's a quiet recognition there, a reminder that some machines were built not just to endure the cold, but to outlast it. Out here, winter never cared how new your tractor was, only whether it would start, pull, and stay running, and these machines did more than that. They carried families through seasons that tested everything. If you've ever trusted a tractor like that, you already understand, some iron is more than steel.